that spring is here in full force, we're going to give you some helpful tips for the month of May. It's that time of year you want to start bringing your houseplants outdoors. Now you want to keep them out of direct sunlight until they've acclimated to the higher light outside. You'll also need to water them and fertilize them more often. And it's also that time to start visiting your local farmers markets for some wonderful fresh grown produce. And the month of May is Mother's Day, so don't forget your mother. You can either create her your own container planter, or you could get her a gift certificate to one of your garden gift centers. And my last tip is, it's that time of year to pinch back your coleus, your Joseph's coat, and your copperleaf for a bushier, fuller growth.
For those of you who are maintaining fruit trees in your garden or other fruits, hopefully you've already begun a spray program to protect the plants from insect and disease damage, and you want to continue those spray applications through the month of May and in most cases up through harvest to help protect the fruit so that you can have a good harvest later on. Another thing you would want to consider is spraying the tree at late May to control borer damage that can attack many of our fruit trees. And usually the label directions indicate that you should spray from the ground up to the first lower major limbs of the tree and to get good thorough coverage to help protect the plant from that damage. Be sure though to follow and read label directions. Now another thing you would want to consider doing through May is to do a little fruit thinning. Many of our fruit trees produce a lot of flowers, and thus a lot of fruit is produced at those locations along a stem, and too much can be somewhat detrimental to the tree. It adds a lot of weight to the limbs, which could cause damage later on, and it results in smaller fruits. And you can get bigger fruit by going in and thinning out some of that fruit. For those areas where there's lots of clusters of fruit, thin it out to only 1 or 2 fruit, remove all the others, and then space them out 6 to 8 inches or more along the stem. That way you can open up the tree a little bit. There's better air circulation around the fruit, so there's less disease problems, and you'll get larger fruit. Now if you have turf grasses and the cool season grasses, you want to maintain those cutting height of about 2 inches. For warm season grasses, you would want to cut those at about 1.5 inches. And if you're going to establish a Bermuda grass lawn or some of the warm season grass lawns, you can start sprigging and sodding those about this time of year. Now other things in the garden, well, as the temperatures begin to warm up, we start seeing a lot more insect damage as well. And I have here a couple of plants that are already showing some damage. This particular one right here has aphids on it, and you can see that it actually had quite a few aphids on it. And if you look really closely, you can notice that there are some tan, light tan and gray insects on here. Those are actually dead aphids. Aphids that have been attacked by natural predators. And that's a good thing. We want to encourage the natural predators to help keep the insect population down in our gardens. So you want to inspect your plants before you go out and reach for the insecticides, and give the natural predators a chance to do their thing. Another thing that you could do before you reach for insecticides is spray this plant with a hard stream of water. Knock some of those insects, some of those aphids off of the plant, and a lot of times they will die before they can return to the plant. So the key here is actually do some inspection, look for natural predators, and then don't reach for the insecticides unless you have to. Another plant here we have is a little rose, and it has what we call stipuling, little tiny white or yellow specks on the leaves. And if you look on the undersides of the plant, you will find the little tiny spider mites that are crawling around, and basically what they're doing is they're piercing and sucking the juices out of the leaf of the plant. This is very common symptom of insect damage caused by spider mites, as well as some other insects such as lace bugs. Again, watch for natural predators that will help control them. Use a hard stream of water, and then, if necessary, you can reach for the insecticides.
Now that the month of May has arrived and our soils have warmed up a little bit more, we can start planting things like the periwinkles, our cannas, dahlias, gladiolus, tuberose, our caladiums, and elephant ears, like we've got right here. This is one of the upright elephant ears. It's a little bit different than the traditional elephant ear that you purchase, but a few nurseries around the state are carrying this plant. In the vegetable garden, we can start planting the seed of our cucurbits, our okra seed slips of sweet potatoes, and our young eggplant. Get those out in the garden at this time. Well, sometimes our transplants or flowering plants that we put out in our beds can get a little bit of a boost if we give them an application or two of a liquid fertilizer like we've got right here. Now, we've got plenty of organic matter in our beds here at our studio gardens, but just to give them a quick boost, an application or two of a liquid fertilizer can get them off to a good start. You can see we haven't mulched our beds yet because we've been waiting for the soil to warm up a little bit more, but now is the time we'll come in and we'll start putting that mulch down so those weeds won't get a jump on us. Earlier this year, we were talking about pruning flowering shrubs, and we told you how those shrubs that bloom early in the spring on old last season's growth need to be pruned after they finished flowering. Well, right now, a lot of those plants have finished flowering, so we can take advantage of that small window of time and get out there and do some reshaping or cutting back some of those plants. We've got a forsythia right here that was just gorgeous this spring with the yellow flowers, and right now is the time of the year to cut this back. We can right now prune our lilacs, our forsythia, spirea bridal wreath, azaleas, Carolina jessamine, and weigela if those plants have finished blooming. Now, also the roses that bloom only once a year in the springtime, those can be pruned back once they've finished flowering as well. Now, May is the time of the year that we start to see a lot of foliage disease show up on our roses, like black spot and powdery mildew. So a lot of gardeners I know begin their spray programs in the month of May. Now, you can go a long ways toward reducing those foliage diseases on your roses just by watering at the base rather than getting the leaves wet. Something like a soaker hose would be a good idea. Before you get the mulch down in your vegetable gardens, make sure you keep all the weeds hoed. Keep those out of the way. Keep them from harboring any insects. You can see that we've started putting down some grass clippings from our lawn to use as mulch in our vegetable garden. Now, if you have any chemicals that have been applied to your lawn, you don't want to put those clippings on your garden. Use those for your ornamental plants or somewhere like that, not on any food that you're going to harvest. In our asparagus patch, we're continuing to harvest the asparagus spears, but once those get down to about the size where they're about the diameter of a pencil, we want to then leave them alone, quit harvesting them, and let them grow out into those fern-like plants that will store up energy and provide a good crop for next year. Well, I hope you remember all of these garden tips for the month of May. We'll be back to give you June garden tips next month.